All right, we'll get started. It's so good to see everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm just going to talk a little bit for a couple minutes about our Zoom etiquette in all school meeting and then turn it over to Wyatt and Vince and we'll get going. So I've shared a screen here. That's why it's white. My first slide is white. I guess I thought I would just chime in first to say that speak to the difference a little bit between Zoom and being in the barn. And one of the things in the barn is that when we're sitting there as an audience in the barn, we're really looking at a stage, and it's pretty easy to direct our attention to a stage, and we're kind of looking at the back of each other's heads. So it's easy to direct our attention forward. Zoom land is all we all know, we're all looking at each other's faces, and there's not really a stage, and it's a different dynamic. And so I think it's just worth just revisiting a few thoughts in regard to how to bring our best to that. And for everyone that's spoken at all school meeting or done an open or given a senior speech, we all know that it gets your adrenaline up and that it takes courage and that it's nerve-wracking. And so whether we're in the barn or on Zoom, I think just really using our body language and all of that to show that speaker that we're with them. And so I think that's everything that I'm going to speak to today about bringing our best in that regard. So some thoughts on being an audience member on Zoom. And I think the first one is maybe doing our best not to multitask and engage in other conversations, because it becomes pretty readily evident when someone is doing that stuff. And it becomes a little distracting, I think, for the people that are on that same screen, and also doesn't necessarily honor that person speaking. And I think doing everything we can not to draw attention to ourselves. So not shifting over to wacky backgrounds or putting on wacky clothes, or just doing something that draws the attention away from that speaker and to ourselves. In regard to the chat feature, here are the do's. If we're going to use it to request to speak, but we're going to do it a little differently to just take the bulk of the chat out. You're going to do a private chat to Wyatt if you want to speak in any part of the meeting. So send it his way. If there's something, last time it was neat to kind of see how some people asked to speak and other people said, I don't want to speak, but here's what I'd like to say. And that's totally fine too. And let's try doing that privately to Wyatt as well, and he'll read that. I think another thing that evolved last time that was neat is people, for example, after Lexi's opener, people commented on how great it was to hear her voice and thanked her, and those kind of things. And I think those are wonderful and a nice way to substitute the applause a little bit. And so let's continue using chat if you want in that regard, the public chat, as a way, if you're moved by something, to speak to it. And we'll continue down that road and see how that goes. If you need logistical help, there are 4 or 5 of us here to help that. So that is certainly use chat if you need some help, and we'll do the best we can to get to it. All right, the don'ts. Basically, don't use chat for anything else. And we're just going to keep that chat and pretty much as simple as that. But don't blow it up. Don't be funny. And don't start or respond chat threads. With 150 or so of us on here, it's just I think just too hard to manage. So thank you for adhering to those. And again, I think the spirit of all of that is to honor those people taking that risk to speak and perform, and to bring our best to them and to this format. So thank you again for all being here, and I'll turn it over to Vince and Wyatt.
Awesome, Kale. Thank you so much. As most of you already know, it's incredibly important for everyone to follow these rules in order for these Zoom meetings to be productive and meaningful to all of us. And to start off today's all-school meeting, formally, I'd like to introduce Christy Ashenden.
Okay, sorry, I was muted. Hi, I'm Christy. You know that. I'm really nervous because this is a song that I wrote myself last night at like 6. So it's brand new. If you think it's dumb, it's probably because I dyed my hair a little bit blonder last night. So I'm an extra dumb blonde now. And yeah, I guess I should just play it. Sorry. Some days my heart grieves for all the things I've lost. I stay in bed all day, no matter what the cost. Why should I wish for something that's just fake? Sure, I can dream, but I'm awake. I wanna be below the rainbow, with my feet right here on the ground. I wanna be below the rainbow, where I know you'll always be around. I wanna be below the rainbow. I feel no more need to roam. I wanna be below the rainbow, 'cause this is where I found my home. Some days I still change my mind, think that with all I have I'm still somehow behind. But I know I'm meant to skip down puddle lanes. You can't see the colors if you haven't felt the rain. I wanna be below the rainbow, with my feet right here on the ground. I wanna be below the rainbow, where I know you'll always be around. I wanna be below the rainbow. I feel no more need to roam. I wanna be below the rainbow, 'cause this is where I found my home. When the whole world's out of order, and you wish you were anywhere but here, remember, no matter the borders, we're below the same rainbows, dear. I like to be below the rainbow, even when I think I shouldn't be. I like to be below the rainbow, 'cause it's the only place I need. Yeah, we're all under the rainbow. There's no point in aiming higher, 'cause we're all meant to be on one earth, filled with all we could desire. That's all.
Senior speech time. As soon as I sat down to write this, I remembered how strongly this man feels every emotion. He lives with vitality and with energy, and because of that, people in the dorm can feel what he feels when we are around him. Yes, that means we are upset or angry when he is, but it also means that we can feel the confidence and joy that he brings into life when he finds that eagerness in his soul. And those who know him will know that his eagerness can be found in his jokes, his stories, and his laugh. I guarantee you will never, ever, ever find yourself in a dull moment when you are around the next speaker, Ramon Torra.
Thank you, sir. I love you so much. Well, hello, my name is Ramon, as you know, and I'm from Barcelona, Catalonia, Spain. So at my early age, I could see that life is very unpredictable and it changes. And all at all, there are moments that mark your life forever and guide who you are and who you want to be. So here I'm gonna tell you 3 moments that I think that they mark my life. I have dedicated my whole life to skiing. And although if you ask me now, I will tell you that I'm very burnt out and tired of this sport. I do not regret having done what I have done because it has made me who I am today. When I was only 11 years old, I was the most promising skier from my club. And even though the club was actually really bad, I was still the best younger skier. And at that time, I asked my technical director if I could be promoted to train with the boys of categories U14 and U16 because I was with the guys of U12 that they weren't really competing. So I proposed this idea, and his response was, "You can keep competing, but you have no potential. You're not gonna be a future skier. We don't want you." So at that moment, I didn't let my hopes go down, and I wouldn't let him trample my dreams. The next year, I changed clubs and my training routine. And in that club, I had to do 2 weeks of summer camp in France for skiing, and I was really excited. But when I arrived, I realized that I will be in a group with older guys that had more experience, and they didn't make it easy for a 11-year-old Ramon. At that time, I was around 5'6". I was already tall, but I weighed around 200 pounds and even more. And kids at that age are really mean with that type of things. Moreover, I had never had many friends, but I did actually had Pokemon cards and just afraid to play with them. So training in France wasn't easy. After I had 2 weeks of full hell, full of jokes, assaults, a lot of airsoft shots. But despite this cruelty of the older boys, it was a week that I learned the most of my life, and I changed my routine. 3 days of work weekly, 2 hours a day, plus 3 days of weekly skiing. And in a year, I went from being a shy, scared boy to being the Ramon that you know today. In a year of training and with a growth spurt, I I now measured 6 feet and my weight went about 170 pounds. And I moved from being an average skier in Catalonia to be in the top 5 of my country. So in Spain, I was no longer nobody. I was known. I was revered. They called me the Red Beast because I was really large and I wore a red speed suit. That's quite original. The people think things a lot. But I will always remember the face of the coach that told me that I will never do anything. His face was so tall with total surprise. He was astonished and embarrassed that he had so misjudged me and my potential. So the second experience that marked my life, and that happened 2 years after. I was still in good shape, but my results racing were really poor. But there was a race that could lead me to return to Spanish Championship, and it seemed that I could do it. But I took a curve badly, and I was thrown back out of the track, and I end up landing in the middle of stone and ice. Those kind of violent crashes happen in Spain because we don't have as much snow as in Colorado. So, well, I could not move my legs, and I didn't know if I would be able to again. And after 3 hours and many tests, the doctor detected that I had a herniated disc and 2 broken vertebrae. And although I will walk again without problem, perhaps it could never go ski again, or maybe compete. I needed a lot of help and support, and talks with coaches, physical therapists, friends, family, so as not to tear apart at that time and a time like this. At this time, my parents saw that I needed a fresh start, so they believed that United States could be the best option for me. And with a lot of foreign patience, I could go back to competing again. And here comes the third moment, one of the most third moment that marked my life. I arrived to the United States on August 27th of 2018. And as well as most of you know, I then go to my wilderness like most of you. My wilderness was a 5-day trip with my father around Nebraska, South Dakota, Montana, and Wyoming. Wow, it was such an experience. And when I got to school, I met my classmates, and actually it didn't go very well. I didn't know anybody. I speak English. As many of you might remember, I remember the first time that I spoke to somebody in the United States, and because in Spain they teach you like the formal way to talk, I learned how to say hello, how are you? And somebody in here said, how's it going? And my answer was Barcelona. So yeah, and well, after some time I met Juanma, that he helped me a lot, and also I met a boy who surprised me a lot when I met him, because I was talking to him and he cut off conversations because he said, it's push-up time. Most of you know he is. So when I arrived to the United States, well, my career as a skier was over, and above all what marked the most of my of the most what sorry no. Well, here my career as skier was over, and above all of that marked the most was that my body did not react how I expect. It reached my physical limit to prevent me doing more. My back did not help and did not make it easy. And although I kept competing a bit, I knew it was time to stop. But when I stopped competing, I discovered there is another world in the snow. That there is something else that is not going through gates. And that there are people who live with passion that is amazing, and that without almost a daily reason to be in the snow, they will die. Their devotion of powder is amazing. I'm glad I share part of this love for snow with them, because although I don't feel it so much, I have really good times, like touching a tree when I'm skiing and ended up rolling down the slope like if I was a cartoon character. And after trying rails and after many, I broke my ass and I broke my nuts. I managed to make one. So I have learned not to be afraid of life. Of course, there's sometimes that it will be hell, sometimes it will be a cakewalk. There will be happiness and sadness. And from what I have seen, so far it's necessary to have somebody close to you, because even though if that person might not solve the situation, that person can make it better. And don't let anybody trample you. The fact that they try to do that doesn't make them better, but if you let them step on you, they will win. So don't be afraid of what may come. Change is inevitable, and sometimes might be good or sometimes might be bad. My father used to tell me that no digas de esta copa no beberé. Literally, it means don't say I will never drink from this cup. But in other words, it means don't say you will never do this or you will never do that, because you may actually do it, and you may actually become the person that you never thought you would. It can actually happen because once I said no to USA, I'm never gonna step in this country or at least live on it. And look at me now. I'm in Barcelona, but I'm actually in an American school. But the last thing the but the last thing is that there are so many things that I'm happy that I have experienced, like the passion I see in others for things, like how I said for skiing or music or painting or biking or kayaking. For example, in my experience back home, people mostly only have passion for partying and soccer, so it changes a lot. Also back home, people over 55 or even 60, for example, I can talk about my father, they don't really like go for adventures, we can say. And here I seen adventure, and here I seen that adventure doesn't end with 18. For example, my first trip with CRMS was with Jim Ga and Mark, and it was amazing. I saw all this energy that they brought, and that inspired me. They inspires to me to think that adventure ends when your effort ends. And the last, probably the most important experience from those 2 years is the new family that I developed in the South Dorm last year and the Lodge Dorm this year. A group of guys that you can say that sometimes they might act peculiar in a peculiar way, and they actually do. And guys, when I came here, I didn't really talk to them, and now it's really hard for me to be a part of them. And last year there was a video of our experiences that every time that I was feeling down, I will watch and it will make me feel better. I hope these bonds never break and our friendship will continue on, because one day you guys will have kids and I'm going to talk to them and be like, you know what your father used to do? So yeah, then I will be really happy when that happens. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ramon. I think it's so important for you to present the pertinence of community and connection and at such a time like this. And moving into accountability and gratitude, I think it is equally as important to continue that connection that we have between each other. Although it's over a virtual network, I think it's important for everyone to share their experiences, how they're coping with the crisis, share struggles and worries for what might be ahead or what is happening now, and share our hope for the future and our gratitude. What are we thankful for at this time? Because personally, I think, and you probably think as well, Ramon, that through reflection, we are able to move forward through hard times, and through empathy, we can connect to each other and help other people move forward. So in framing accountability and gratitude, I'd like everyone to share part of themselves from this time in order for us to better connect virtually.
To thank my roommate, Emily, because I left school before everything got bad and I left a week early for spring break. And so I didn't have any of my school stuff. Like I didn't have my computer or any of my school supplies because I thought I would be going back, and Emily mailed them to me. So I just want her to know that I appreciate her.
Bella has something to say.
I have a quick thank you to Ida. She kind of our friend group has zoomed a few times for lunch, and Ida's definitely been the spearhead of that. I just really appreciate that she's kind of forced us to continue to be social, especially because most of the people in our group are very antisocial. So thanks, Ida.
I just wanted to say a quick thank you to Jeremy and to Philip, because I haven't been really able to leave campus because of my health issues. And both Jeremy and Philip have been going to the store and getting me groceries and things like that. And I just wanted to give a big thanks to them for going out of their way to help me out. So yeah.
I would like to thank Ayo. 2 days ago, I think he rode up to my house to say hi to Sonia and I. I don't know if that was his intended purpose, but he ended up coming anyways. And it was really good to see him in person and just talk about stuff with him. And we also cleared up some things about senior project, which was really nice. So thank you, Ayo. I love you.
I want to say thank you to Christy for FaceTiming me 10 minutes before every class, because we used to walk to breakfast together every day, but we can't do that anymore. So instead we FaceTime every morning, and it's a great way to start off my day. So thank you.
Well, it's not responding to my request for a thank you, but I'm going to say thank you anyways. Thank you, Wyatt, for, still motivating me to work hard right now. I didn't think I still would be this far into the year, but I am. Thank you. I want to thank all the faculty and staff like I did last week, because I'm just so awed by the amount of work you guys are putting into this. I'd like to thank Ayo and Mark, because they've been, they've sent me messages lately, and it's been really encouraging. I'd like to thank my friends, Rick, Richard, Robbie, Garth, and Levon.
I'd like to hold myself accountable to read the entire name in the chat, because I saw Ellie Erfrig in the chat and I unmuted Ellie. And Ellie sent me a message saying, "What do you mean? Thank you for the barrage." Then I realized it said Ellie Erfrig, #1 fan, which is Vince. So I'd like to hold myself accountable to
I should
read
fix
the whole
that.
name. And thank you, everyone, for all the work you're doing.
I'm sorry.
Hi, everyone. I would just like to take the opportunity to really thank our community for coming together. I know that my nephew in Boise is also a senior right now, and his school has not yet been able to rally like CRMS has. And I know that in the second week of classes, it's been so wonderful to have the familiarity and the routine of being able to meet with my classes every day and see you all through all school. And so I just want to send out a huge thanks to just the leadership of the school, Jeff, Diane, Nancy, Jennifer, who've really been kind of putting in the work to make this happen, to continue what this place is. And I'm just constantly inspired and awed by just the people, the Philip, and the ways in which everyone's stepping up. Eric and Todd, the list kind of goes on and on. So thank you so much for just being the wonderful CRMS community that I've come to know and love throughout the years.
I just wanted to say thank you so much to Jim Goss specifically for helping me with my technical difficulties with the Zoom in Canvas. He's been really great. So.
All right, it's time to shift into announcements. First up is Lexi White.
Hi guys. So as many of you guys know, or some of you guys know, my original senior project plan was to go to Thailand and work with elephants and the ecotourism there surrounding the elephants. And obviously my plans have been canceled because of coronavirus, as have a lot of tourists who go to these ecotourism spots to go support these elephants and their sanctuaries that they live in, so that they don't have to be in logging activities, which are illegal in Myanmar, and be put through the ringer with stuff. So I am starting a GoFundMe to help these sanctuaries because a lot of them are running out of money and they can no longer feed their elephants. And a lot of these elephants have been kept in captivity their whole entire lives, so they can't really go out into the forest and fend for themselves very well. So I'll be sending out a link for a GoFundMe. I know coronavirus is also tough on families because a lot of people aren't working, but anything you can give will help. So thank you.
All right, next up we have Amy Yanez.
I think we're going to have to unmute Amy. I'm looking for if anyone, any of the
I got it.
Great.
Hi, everybody. I just want to thank those of you who have sent me photos this week. Beth and I are desperate for pictures. So if you have any of you doing anything fun in your classes or as part of your active, or just, anything, building puzzles, whatever you might be doing, send them our way. And soccer girls, I sent you guys all an email yesterday. I'm hoping you will participate in my fun little activity. Let me know if you did not get it. Thank you.
All right, and lastly we have Megan.
Hey everybody, I just wanted to share, it's been pretty neat to connect with a few of you and chat about reading lately. I know that a lot of people have more time on their hands and might be feeling bored or even kind of lonely at home. It's been great. I hope a lot of you guys are picking up a book and reading for fun. I wanted to let folks know that during student meeting blocks, I'm signed into my Zoom classroom, and it'd be fun if you want to bounce in, chat about what you're reading. If I can help connect folks to audiobooks or ebooks, things like that through the public library, I would love to help out with that. And I am hoping to start up a book club that would be student-led. I know a few of the teaching fellows who don't get to see you guys as much would love to join as well. I think we could do something maybe once a month or more frequently if you guys were interested. You guys could choose the book. It could be an article. It could be a short story. I'm very flexible and open to ideas. I think something uplifting would be fun. So please look for an email about that and let me know if you're interested. It'd be fun to connect with more folks and chat about what we're reading right now. Thanks, you guys.
This concludes your announcements.
Okay, so, thanks, Nat. Senior speaker, part 2. In light of the next speaker, I'm reminded of a conversation I had with the great Zenki Roshi of the Crestone Mountain Zen Center. We were discussing the merits of conversation at dinner, and he described those that talk too much as just as problematic as those that speak too little. I've discovered, however, that the next speaker has the ability to bring attention to certain aspects without excess nor deficiency of information or value. She speaks to you intelligently with purpose, for she knows what is important to her. The next senior speaker, Lacey Kachucha.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope all is well and you're all staying healthy. My name is Lacey Kachucha, and I am a first-year senior. I am from Dulce, New Mexico, and I currently live in Albuquerque, New Mexico. My family has always been my biggest support. Out of 4 siblings, I am the eldest. Being the eldest has taught me many things. First, that all my life, I will always have little eyes watching me and rooting for me to do my best. Growing up with my best friend and little sister, Ida May, has been the greatest. She knows me best and never fails to make me laugh when I'm feeling down. She always pushes me to better myself and overcome the toughest obstacles. But the number one thing I have learned from Ida is to never be afraid of change. Leaving my previous high school and all of my childhood friends for my senior year wasn't ideal. I always dreamt of the day I would walk across the stage with my friends by my side. But then during junior year, I decided it's now or never. I realized that I needed some sort of change in my life. Ida has always encouraged me to apply to CRMS, but I just wasn't ready yet. After giving it some thought, I applied. Months later, after receiving my acceptance letter, I knew that this was the best decision I had made for myself. I had never been away from home for more than 2 months. I was nervous and super excited for a new start. When my junior year ended, I began to count down the days until wilderness. Summer flew by, and next thing I know, my parents and I are on our way, headed north, driving the 9 hours from Albuquerque to Carbondale. After unloading all of my belongings in the gym, there was no turning back. Hugging my parents goodbye, knowing I won't see them for a month or 2, was hard for me to think about, so I didn't think about it too much. Spending my first night in the North Dorm waiting to leave on Wilderness the next morning, my emotions were everywhere, but I never felt like I wanted to go home. I knew this is where I was supposed to be. During Wilderness, I never knew how much strength I really had until I was hiking over a pass at 12,000 feet in elevation and laying under my ground tarp with my own thoughts for so long. As the end of Wilderness approached, the days felt longer, and it felt like time had slowed down. I was getting impatient knowing that I'd be able to call my family at home and tell them I'd made it and had done it all by myself. I couldn't wait to tell them everything I experienced and learned about myself. The most important thing I learned about myself during Wilderness is that I'm capable of facing the toughest challenges alone with the right mindset. I want to show my siblings this by continuing to further my education and push myself to my greatest potential. I'll be the first to graduate and leave home to attend college. I want my siblings to understand that it's okay to leave home and go far. Last year, I flew out to New York City by myself to be a part of the National United Nations Conference, specifically on Indigenous women issues. I represented myself, my family, and my Indigenous people. I was terrified about being in such a huge city by myself, but I knew it was where I needed to be at the time. I knew that my voice was not only going to help me, but the Indigenous people around the world. While out in New York, I thanked my family for the continuous support they always showed me. My aunt replied, "You weren't given wings for nothing, my dear. That's why we love you so much. You take us further than we've ever been. You keep us all young and strong." These words have always stuck with me and continue to motivate me while out in the real world by myself. I can't wait to see the opportunities college has to offer me. Despite the current events taking place and seeing the drastic change in our daily lives, I would like to close with a saying in my language that means to be strong, to be woman enough, to be man enough, to push forward through hard times. Gwatse hopa danas kes ese kukanu hanusta e sits waistu sta gume hashtume dawe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lacey. That was beautiful and quite moving. As we will make this tradition, but at the end of every meeting, I'd like everyone to join in saying the barrage. So I will unmute you all right now. Begin.
Okay, here we go. To begin, I want to say thank you to Christy and Lexi for their kind words last week. I, along with many, look up to you both, and I feel very fortunate to have such incredible student role models here at CRMS. When I was pondering for words to describe the next barrage recipient, the first one that immediately came to mind was kind. He says hello to anyone and everyone on the way to the Jossman, bikes along next to you while you walk simply to keep you company after a long practice, and will always get you a glass of hot chocolate after a long ski at Spring Gulch or up to the Bells. He is patient, he is considerate, and he is generous to all around him. The second word to describe him is dedicated. I remember sitting in my sleeping bag at the Leadville bike race as the sun rose. Sleepy, cold, and hungry, I was grateful my race was not for many hours to come. However, this student was racing at 8:30 that morning. Seeing as he had just returned from Wilderness 4 days prior, I was in awe that this new student was able to example such vibrant energy and excitement for an 8:30 a.m. bike race in cool temperatures. He came across the finish line with a smile on his face, and as the season progressed, so did he. At his final race of the season, his dedication to the sport and team was reflected in his place, as he moved up almost 30 spots from that first race in Leadville just a month prior. This dedication from the bike season continued into the winter. He never missed a practice and always brought that vibrant energy and excitement to whatever we were doing, whether that be practicing, playing sharks and minnows, or pushing ourselves during Tuesday intervals. As I got to know this person more, I can say with great confidence that the next appropriate word to describe him with is goofy. He brings his own humor and light to each situation and is not afraid to let his nutty personality shine through. When we were biking, he would often make random noises of nonsense simply out of joy and contentment. While skiing, you are likely to find him in some strange position on the ground or attempting to get sendy on skinny skis. And in between classes, he's always there to give you a hand hug or offer you a euro from his pocket that he must have snatched earlier that day at lunch. While he is dedicated and hardworking, he is also goofy and is sure not to take life too seriously. I feel very fortunate to call this person a friend, teammate, and most importantly, my birthday twin. While we may have only met in September of 2019, I feel as though he is my second younger brother. And I must admit, I would not have suspected that if I was ever lucky enough to receive the barrage, I would want to give it to a freshman boy. Yet, his kindness, commitment, humor, and so much more inspire me daily. I cannot wait to see all that he does in his next 3 years at CRMS, and I hope that in that time he will learn how to check his email. This week, I am honored to give the barrage to Tristan Trontow.
Tristan.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening and afternoon. Thanks so much for being here.